Nostalgia Street invites you on a retro ride that's more than just a trip down memory lane.
Uncover life lessons and personal growth stories that stem from our collective past.
So you can live a richer, more connected life today.
Whether you're a 90s kid, an 80s teen, or simply young at heart, you'll find something to relate to in each episode.
Now, here are your hosts, Vince and Jeff. All right, well, welcome back to another episode of Nostalgia Street, where we talk about the stories that shape us, and we share them too. I always
I'm
mess
gonna
that
giggle
up.
every time.
Every time.
I feel
All
like
right,
you
well,
need
our
it.
special guest today we will reveal later on. For now, we'll call her Christina. And Vince always has a fun question to start us off. So what's the question today, sir?
All right, Christina, we looked through your questionnaire and it looked like you were in choir. So here's a hypothetical scenario. It is next year, Christmas at the Cathedral. You are now the director, and you have to select a quartet to sing some wonderful Christmas song. From your quartet, you can pull from any musician, group, or whatever you want.
In history.
In history, at any time. So who you're for and what are they singing?
Well, probably most of my life I've been more of a country fan, so I'd probably pick like a little quartet of different country singers to probably get a good medley of sound.
Okay. Would we recognize any of these voices?
Well, yeah, probably. So I'm an avid concert goer.
All right.
And pre-COVID, I had a very specific goal of, hitting 100 concerts within a 5-year time period. And I made it to like 65, but then COVID hit and it all went out the window. But anyways, one of my favorite concerts was Keith Urban.
Okay.
He can put on a show like nobody's business. And I've always loved the Dixie Chicks, now the Chicks. They had a song out at a really pivotal point in my life called Wide Open Spaces, and so I've sort of always made it my theme song.
All right.
So that would get us to 4.
That would, officially.
Right?
But if you could only pick one from one group, so you can't just pick the Chicks. So
okay.
one Chicks,
You gotta pick a
Keith
chick.
Urban, and then you got
Okay.
2 more.
Okay. So I'm terrible with names, but the main singer, she's got the gruffer voice. I would go with her.
The gruff chick.
Natalie, that's it.
Gruff chick.
Okay, so I'm up to 2 and need 4. Looks like I've got some work to do, huh? Let's see. Red Solo Cup.
So we're not country people, so I don't know.
This is terrible.
Is that a group?
No,
A song.
it's a song.
Oh,
Red Solo Cup.
Because we
I'll
got purple
fill
solo
you
cups
up.
here.
we're not traditional.
And who doesn't love Garth Brooks?
Right.
All right.
So we have to put Garth in there
So you got
somewhere.
Garth,
you know?
Keith, hit Natalie, and the Red Solo Cup gal.
Guy.
Guy. Oh, so you got 3. You got a 3 to 1 male to female quartet here.
Yeah,
Non-traditional.
up.
I love it.
But the chick's in charge, FYI. So
All
it's
right.
Natalie.
Natalie and the boys.
Is there such a thing as an Asian country singer?
Yeah, there probably is.
You should check on that.
It's got to be me.
It's your job.
I mean, the lead singer of Journey is Asian.
Oh, that's right. Yeah,
He's-
Philippine. Yeah.
He's good.
He's very good. He's very good. Let's give a quick shout out, as we usually do, to our sponsors here at Forefront Studios. We're at 114 South Main, bringing this to you live as we record it, but probably not when you listen to it. It's probably not possible. But we are a video production studio here in downtown Sioux Falls, South Dakota. We create video really mostly for the ag and the manufacturing space. We've done a little bit of everything, but it's kind of our go-to. It's something we enjoy doing. So if you need a project for your business to kick off 2024 in the right way, give us a shout or visit our website at forefrontstudios.com. And now we get to reveal, we rip
guest.
off the Band-Aid, our guest today.
Who is not a choir director.
Yeah,
just
you
to
wouldn't
be clear.
want that at this stage of my life, by the way. So
It is Christina Kota. You're the only Kota I know, but it's not K-O-T-A, it's C-O-T-A. So
It is.
what nationality is that?
that's a great question. It is French Canadian, so it used to be Cote with a C-O-T accent over the E.
All right, Cote.
So do we have to speak Canadian English today?
I think so. Yeah, I think we should.
But actually, I'm mostly Irish. So
Irish. All right, I can see that. I
Yeah.
can see that. Now, is it mostly red hair we see?
I mean, this may or may not be completely natural. So
I mean, we're all Irish in March.
there's a little red in there, but yeah. Most of my family members do not have red hair.
All right, well, so let's start. Let's imagine little Christina. Do they call you Christy or Christina or?
You know, actually, there's a funny story there.
Oh, we
So
love
I was in
stories.
first grade, and I grew up in a really small town. And so my first grade, there was a whole 6 of us. And my first grade teacher, her name was Mrs. Kane, young, beautiful 20-something-year-old in this itty-bitty little podunk town called Genoa in Wisconsin. And she said, your name is Christina. Do you like to be called Christina, or do you want to be called something else? And I said, no, Christina is my God-given name, like all serious and stuff. So nobody messed with it
And
after
it's
that.
stuck. Yeah,
As like an
whoa.
8-9-year-old or however old you were.
I would have been like 6.
Wow, you just said straight up.
It's very
like
serious.
Of course.
See, I don't like people knowing my government name. So
You don't like what?
people knowing my government name.
Is there a reason for that?
Well, no, it's just funny.
CIA. Your government
My
name.
government name.
So Genoa, or is it Genoa?
Well,
How do you say it right?
It was a small Italian
Yeah.
town, and the Italian way of saying it would be Genoa.
Genoa.
But, you
And
know,
that's where they make salami, Vince.
in Wisconsin, they call it Genoa.
Italians in Wisconsin.
Yeah. And
Wisconsin.
What I think I've been through there, but what part of the state is that in?
It's on the way western side of the state along the river,
Okay, so it's not too far from we drove
La Crosse.
through. Yeah, La Crosse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
just south of La Crosse.
Fun.
Which is God's country.
Totally.
When you go, sorry Minnesotans, but when you leave that state and go into Wisconsin and you
That
get to that
state.
river, it's like the heavens have opened.
It's like
and
flat. Oh,
It's
hey.
just-
Totally.
gorgeous.
Yeah.
But the last time we drove through there, it was super foggy. We posted pictures of that.
spooky.
It was really spooky. It was kind of disappointing because that's really pretty land.
Yeah. Yeah, it's gorgeous. The bluffs there are beautiful. I just realized what you need on your shelf over here, and it's
Yeah.
a can of Old Style
Yes.
from La Crosse
Sure.
Oh.
that says "Made in God's Country" on it.
Old
This is our
style.
new goal.
That would fit.
Yeah, it would.
By the way, for people who are maybe listening to this on the audio, you should check us out on YouTube where you can see what Christina's referencing.
A wall of nostalgia.
Yeah, we have a wall of nostalgia behind us that desperately needs more to it. We've got some
Yeah, it
8-track tapes,
They could use more beer, definitely. You're right.
old style hams, all
right.
the goodies. So it's funny that you mentioned beer because I've heard there's this outstanding statistic about the amount of alcoholism or consumption that happens in Wisconsin. Like it's really, really high.
Yeah, so in the town just north of there, it's La Crosse, Wisconsin, and it's more bars per capita than any other in
Wow.
in the Midwest.
So why do you think that is?
It's a good question. I mean, it's
I've
where
always
they
wondered.
brewed old style
Okay,
beer for
yeah.
a year. It was Heileman's Brewery
Yeah.
was there, and and then you've got Old Milwaukee and Milwaukee. So there's
Yeah.
a number of big brewers and
Oh,
things.
that's true.
But
Okay. For some reason, I'm thinking Milwaukee's in a different state
So
than Wisconsin.
that's a great
but-
segue. One of my best friends in college, he was from Wisconsin, and I swear he told us he didn't understand that there was an actual drinking age, and he used to tell us that when you turn 10 in Wisconsin, you get given a beer.
he's probably not wrong.
And all of a sudden, poor innocent 6-year-old Christina now sounds like an alcoholic. Boy, did we drift away from
Yeah,
that
we did.
fast.
I don't know
Whoa.
how we got there at being 6,
Well,
but
okay, so assuming you weren't drinking by this time, Christina,
No.
what did you do as a young child in Wisconsin?
So I grew up outside of town, and our closest neighbor was like a mile and a half away. So you had to be really like self-sufficient with playing and finding stuff to do. And it appalls people to listen to some of the stories I tell, but like literally our parents would allow us to go swimming in the ponds with the cows.
Nice.
And I would not let my child do that today. But
How big of a pond are we talking?
I don't know. I'm terrible with like measurements, but I mean, pretty decent size. The
right.
size of this room.
Because
I
the
don't-
smaller the pond,
Yeah, the more
the more the duty.
Sure. Yeah. We would hunt for morel mushrooms. That was kind of a fun little pastime.
Now, I've never had that. Do they taste? Did you eat them?
Yeah, we need to get you some of those.
All right. I've never had
Very
them.
good.
I've
Very
heard a lot
rich,
about
but
'em.
delicious.
She's come on our
sound
show
good.
and she says we need beer and mushrooms.
Sounds like a good time in the 60s.
Nostalgia.
True nostalgia, isn't
I wasn't
it?
there for that, but I'll
I
take your word
don't
for it.
remember it. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So as you got through your younger years, what were some of those favorite things that you would do besides swim with the cows?
One of the best things I remember out of my childhood, when I've always tried to remember exactly the age, but I'm guessing it was somewhere between like 8 and 10 years old. My dad came home with this little red Honda 50. And I mean, if you can envision like a true mini bike,
Yeah.
like kids are riding like a replica of them
Okay,
today.
sure.
From time to time, you might see a kid, on the side streets with them or whatever. But I cannot tell you the amount of hours and miles that we put on that thing. But it was just so fun. Like you truly felt like you were riding your Harley, and you're just out with the wind blowing in your hair. But, like there just wasn't a lot to do. And so you had to find your own fun. And we'd always get in trouble by Dad, too, because he'd be like, you ran all the gas out of the mini bike today. And it's like, well, isn't that kind of what it's there for? Like
Gotta
it
run
could
away
sit
from
in
the
the
cops.
garage instead.
Yeah. Now, how many brothers and sisters did you have?
Yeah, I grew up with an older sister, an older brother, and a younger sister.
Gotcha.
So
And
I was kind of in the middle.
So did you guys have to play paper, rock, scissors over who gets to ride the bike?
No, well, yes, actually in the very beginning, but then like as my brother got a little older, he got a 70.
Okay.
So then he left us alone with the 50. The best thing though was when he came home with a girlfriend at like 16 years old, he let her ride our mini bike. He wanted her to start small or whatever. And
Sure.
so she gets on this thing, she's like 16 years old and has never ridden a bike before, a motorbike. And she gets on it, and I'm not kidding you. Like she revs that thing so high that it pops a wheelie. And then she holds on for dear life and has to go running after the thing. And we're just watching this all go down. Like if we could have had that on video, we totally would have won America's Funniest Videos. Talk about nostalgia there, huh?
I've seen someone do that at a motorcycle class. Just
Yeah.
So where
It
is she
was the
at
best.
today? Did they get married?
They did.
Whoa.
But they're not together anymore, so we probably shouldn't talk about
that's
it
too
anymore.
bad. That's too bad. That would be a sight to see.
It was funny.
Well, speaking of motorcycles, the gentleman to my right had a escapade with a motorcycle over the summertime.
Oh, you did?
Oh, I didn't realize that I was on a farm and I was on a dirt bike that I shouldn't have been. And I realize now why farm kids have dirt bikes. They're a heck of a lot of fun.
Yeah.
But when you're not a farm kid and you're not used to a dirt bike and you don't realize how much torque there is, sometimes you go flying off of it and you break some bones.
So you broke bones.
Yes.
I have scrapes and places that I probably should have had stitches. But back then, parents didn't take their kids to the ER to get stitches. You sucked it up. So I have a few scars.
I was going to ask you how many times that 50 get wrecked.
Yeah,
Pretty
several.
durable.
It's a
guy.
Honda.
Two hardcore ones that I did. Scraped up my shoulder really bad and my leg. But we lived.
So is there a 50 in your household today?
It's a super sad story. Like we had it for a really long time. And then a friend of the family was like supposed to like take it and fix it up.
Yeah.
And it never came back.
Oh, no.
So it's sad.
Stolen. Mm-hmm. How dare they?
Yeah.
Shame them.
We need names. We need names. Call them out or hunt them down.
We don't have to.
One or the other.
So it sounds like you got into quite a bit of trouble growing up.
Actually, no.
No?
Like that was
Just-
probably
just-
the worst of my trouble. Like I was the like learn from your older siblings' mistakes child, and my mom would definitely tell you like I was the kid who sat in the corner with the doll and played by myself. Like if I got tired, I just went to bed. I was the quiet one back then. I might not be
we've
anymore,
had some
but
younger siblings who they weren't necessarily the ones who got caught, so they were technically not in trouble.
Right. Yeah. We just,
I
we
worked
just heard that
really
recently.
hard to stay out of trouble. I'm not saying I never did anything wrong, but I never did anything near what my siblings did.
So this is where Vince typically asks the guest a story of regret that you care to share with us. Anything that you did, you're like, man, I wish I could take that back. Or maybe I don't. I just like that period of my life.
Could be as serious or as benign as you want to share.
But the salacious, the better.
We had one guest who told us how she stole a high school boyfriend from somebody else. We had somebody else who, what was it? They
Dated the drum major.
or they pushed their brother or something like that.
Oh, yeah. We had
Just a moment where you're kind of like, oh, maybe I shouldn't have done that, and I'm going to be better next time.
Yeah. Joe Batchelor, his brother told him he was Superman, I think, and
Jumped out of
tried
the
to jump out of the kitchen window. And we forget, it was pretty far
Yeah.
distance there. They hid
Oh
things.
boy, you guys stumped me a little. We might have to come back to that.
No, no
Right.
worries.
That's a ploy. It's a great ploy.
So were you in Wisconsin for most of your upbringing then, or did you move around?
All the way through college, yeah.
Okay,
All the way. Wow.
because this is normally we have folks who've moved here
South
or somewhere.
Dakotans.
So this is you're kind of our first like interstate. What's the word? Across state borders.
Yeah. Sure. Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
Yep, I went from Wisconsin to Minnesota and then South Dakota, so I made my way over.
So what were so since you are a Wisconsinite, don't they call you Scotty? Is that a bad thing or a good thing?
Scotty. Yeah,
I've never heard that term.
You haven't?
Scotty.
I just heard about that recently.
you're a Scotty.
Scotty. So what were the styles or things that talking about peer pressure, or the things that you had to say or do or wear to kind of fit in with the crowd in junior high school?
Well, of course, you had to fold and roll your jeans.
We've done that.
Required.
I've shown that.
Absolutely required.
And I was there. We did that.
Yep.
Yep.
I tried doing that the other day. I couldn't do it.
Did you pop your collars?
Oh, yeah. Izod. You
Yeah.
had to have the Izod shirts with your collars up.
Yep.
You had members only jackets.
Here we go.
Whoa.
Right on.
Members
It's like
only-
universal in the Midwest.
Wait, members
Yeah.
only?
Same.
Is that
Totally.
like a brand or something? Or what's a members only?
Yeah. And then you
That's-
had
is it?
your
Oh.
high top Reeboks.
Yep. Those were big. Nikes with the red swoosh.
Nikes
That
with
was kind
red
of a big
swoosh.
thing.
Yeah.
We had a guy in I may have mentioned him in the past, a buddy of mine named Rob Garman. And it's in Missouri, so I doubt he'll hear this, but he always had on Levi's 501s, the Nikes with the red swoosh, and it wasn't Izod. Rob was better than the rest of us, so he had polo.
Oh.
And that was like a next level for a lot of us.
Well, by the time it got to high school, then it changed and it needed to be polo. Or for girls, it was Benetton.
Oh, yes.
They were like the
That's right.
circles. You'd probably remember this. You
Yeah,
wouldn't.
yeah.
You might not know this.
He doesn't know who Lawrence
you
Welk
little
is, so.
youngster, you. But
Yeah, I only know Benetton because of the
Not
race car
bad.
team.
Sure.
They
Ooh,
sponsor-
I don't know.
I think they
about
sponsored
that.
the race car team.
yeah. And then don't forget the Gerbo jeans. You had to have a Gerbo in high
Yeah.
school.
Gerbo?
Gerbo.
Like gerbil?
Or there was also
It was French.
Jordache.
Those weren't cool enough.
They weren't.
Gas
Yeah,
jeans
Guess.
were cool.
We need like a computer here to pull
Yeah,
this
yeah.
stuff off.
Yeah, you do.
No, I remember a comedian. He was talking about Jordache jeans. He goes, "Well, you know how they got their name?" He goes, "Hey, girl, Jordache looks so good in those jeans."
I thought you were saying
That's
DoorDash
perfect.
this whole time.
DoorDash,
DoorDash
no.
jeans.
No, but like Levi's 501s, that was
Yeah.
the jean that made everybody's booty look good as a puberty stricken child.
Well, like
in
you
junior
first
high
had to
school.
grow up with Garanimals, though, didn't you? And then
I
you
knew of them.
graduated to.
I knew of them.
Yeah.
But yeah, there were other. I'm trying to think. There was another brand. Guerrera. I don't know. There was some brand, and they just had a really cool style, and they weren't like really. Oh, Genera. That's
yeah.
what it was.
Okay.
Generra, I think. I had a lot of that. It was just kind of a cool style. They're definitely more expensive. So luckily, I had a job in high school to pay for that
So
addiction.
what would they cost back in the day? Like what's
Gosh,
give me a
that's
price
a
price
great
anchor price
question.
anchor this for me here.
I don't know. I don't remember. Well, like, what would you pay for Izod or polo shirts?
Well, like what were you getting paid in high school, and how much of that was going towards a jean or whatever?
Well, in high school, I was making like $3.15 an hour, something like that.
Yeah, I think it made like $2.35, but I was a car hop for A&W. So we
Yeah.
made like a few dollars an hour in tips.
Plus the tips.
But
Yeah.
that was about it. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't remember what those items cost.
I had to buy my own first pair of Gerbo jeans, and they were $69,
Wow.
which is interesting because
Yeah.
like jeans today are still like $70.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, more expensive ones are 100, but I mean, you could still get a really great pair of jeans for that amount of money. So they were pretty expensive for back then, but that's why my parents wouldn't buy them.
When I was in high school, my buddy Steve, his father had passed many, many years ago. And so we took it upon ourselves to kind of help show Steve this is how you tie a tie, things like that. But he bought his first suit coat, and he came to school with it, and he had the tag still on the outside. And so we're like, Steve, you're supposed to like take that off. And he looked at us so innocently, and he goes, well, if you take it off, how do people know that it's a Ralph Lauren suit? Like, well, you typically don't advertise what kind of suit you're wearing, Steve.
People still do that.
Yeah.
I find friends, I'm like, hey, you got to cut that off, buddy. Or the people who've got the back of their suit jacket still pinned together. And you're like, you got to pull that off, buddy.
I was guilty of that once or twice, I'll admit.
We'll be right back.
So what did young teenage Christine like to listen to the most?
Like rap and hip hop.
Oh,
Like
okay.
I had Rockford Fosgate's speakers in the back
You
of
did?
my car.
Wow.
Which one?
And we would go booming through town,
Wow.
blasting our speakers.
What was your ride?
It was a beautiful Ford Escort. I mean,
Of course.
what do you
The
think
rocking
it's going to
speakers. I
be?
don't know. I mean,
Did the car rattle?
Totally. Yeah.
you hear you 3 blocks down.
Yes. My dad's like, why on earth do you want that? Girl likes music.
Yeah. Rockford Fosgate. That's
Yeah.
hardcore. I have seen cars fall apart at in an intersection where something falls off of the car because the vibration from the bass is so massive.
So what era of rap would that be? Like early,
It would have been 90s.
so like NWA and Biggie and
Yeah, like Salt and Pepper.
Okay.
Yeah.
Vanilla Ice.
If you're really naughty, it was Two Live Crew.
You're really naughty. Not that she would know or anything.
Not that I would know. I've just heard about it.
Yeah, from the older siblings.
Correct.
So what did you do in that time frame that you hope your kids never find out about?
That's a great question.
Oh, great. I'll be sure not to tell them about this. Actually, I was rewinding for a minute to the earlier question, like probably shouldn't have done this.
Oh, okay, here we go.
So we lived a half hour outside of town. I went to high school in La Crosse, but, Genoa was a half hour south. And so I was typically always the driver because I had to be home that night. And so most of the time, like if there ever was any underage activity going on, like I was usually the driver. Every once in a while, I'd stay at my friend's house. And one weekend, a friend had a party in their cabin in the woods, another like 45 minutes north of La Crosse, and literally like in the woods.
Yeah.
And probably about 25 or so of us like went up there and partied and things like that. Well, it didn't go well. And like essentially I'm lost in the woods.
Oh, no.
Like it could have really gone bad.
Sounds like a movie.
It does.
Teenagers
Yeah.
in the woods.
Yeah.
Someone with a chainsaw. And here comes Vicky Stewart peeking out between the trees with the beer. Do you know Vicky Stewart?
I do.
She was when she was on. She was a
So
fun
funny.
little kid.
She is so funny.
Oh man, the stories that she was telling us about her encounters with alcohol at a young age.
Sneaking beer in her chair.
Yeah. I'm sure she did.
She was hilarious. But she even was younger when she was telling the story. I think there was one can of beer amongst a bunch of 8th graders, and they thought that they were pretty cool. When they could
Although
drink
there
that.
was one time where my aunt and uncle had an anniversary party, and do you know what like a brandy slush is?
I've heard of it.
Or a brandy smash? I hear people call it around here. We called it slush growing up. Well, it's brandy, orange juice, lemonade that's frozen, and then you serve it with some like 7-Up.
Okay.
Wow.
Well, it's delicious.
Sounds
And
delicious.
and what like 8-year-old doesn't want to try this delicious drink
boy.
that all these adults are drinking, and it tastes so wonderful. Like you don't taste the alcohol at all.
Sure.
And somebody ended up with a really upset stomach all night that night. And my aunt and uncle are like, "Did you drink some of that slush?" And I'm like, "Yeah, why?" It was really good. Sorry about that.
Oops, keys.
Sorry about that.
So I recall you in the questionnaire that you provided to us, psychology was something that you enjoyed in school. So how old were you when you kind of got into the psychology piece?
Yeah, that was high school. I don't know why, but I had a great, he taught both sociology and psychology teacher. Mr. Desmond was his name. And I don't know. I just really found it interesting to better understand humans and human behavior and why they do what they do and think what they think. And, it's both nature and nurture and how that all comes together. So it always just really intrigued me.
Yeah.
Did that change what you wanted to be? Like, did you want to be something different when you were younger?
Well, interesting. My mom used to ask me what I wanted to do when I grew up. And my answer was, I want to be a daytime dentist and a nighttime nurse.
Interesting.
Wow.
And she was like, if you were a daytime dentist, you wouldn't need to be a nighttime nurse. Like that's what she would say to me. And I'm like, nope, that's what I'm going to be. And I don't know why I thought those things. But as I got older, I realized I didn't really like science at all. So somebody, I had to find a path. And once I discovered psychology, I was like, okay, this is what I want to do. So that was originally actually my major in college. And then you kind of uncover if you really want to do something with psychology that actually makes money, you probably have to go get a doctorate. And I was like, I don't think I'm up for that many years of school.
I like it, but not that much.
Yeah. So then I switched to business. Yeah.
So I had a boss in high school, and he told me, he said, regardless of what you want to do in life, you'll never regret getting a degree in either business or psychology because you can use one or the other or both. And I found that to be true if I only would have listened to him. But you think about the psychology of the people that you work with or even of yourself. I think we all need a little psychology that we know about, that we can apply. I know I do. Mm-hmm. But it's a fascinating field. The mind is a crazy little tool.
It is.
So my parents were worried when they saw, psychology as a class offered because they have a limited, they know English pretty decent, but vocabulary wise, they recognize psycho. So they were like, why you take psycho class?
Why you take psycho?
No way.
No, yes way.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So that's pretty good.
That is hilarious.
So are you familiar with the group Cheers for Fears?
Oh, the band? Tears for Fears. Yeah.
Okay. There was something about either one or both of them was really into psychology. And so that song, Shout, Shout, Let It All Out, it's all about the primal scream. And so I was like, so when I found that out, I'm like, what's this all about? So I started digging around. And so back in my post-college days, I was in restaurants, and if you were having a really bad time, we would tell people, go into the walk-in cooler, shut the door, and scream and holler as loud as you want to, and then come back out and tell us how you feel. And everybody is always like, that was a great release.
Awesome.
That's why the most modern workspaces have a cry booth.
Yeah.
At least I call it a cry booth. It's a phone call booth, but I tell everybody, Startup, ClickRain, those are cry booths.
That's awesome.
No, my story from college, my favorite, I took a lot of psychology in college, and my favorite was, I forget the number it was, but it was human sexuality. And the funny thing is, it was a 5-hour course. You had 3 hours of lecture, and this is the best part, you tell your parents, 2 hours of lab. Not even joking.
Okay.
Some people are like, well, what do you do in lab? I'm like, well, you got to take the course to find out. And it was not at all like what you'd expect. But imagine a room of 500 people in a college setting talking about different aspects of human psychology from our professor, who was probably like 70 and looked like Colonel Sanders.
Oh, great.
It was bizarre. But the experiments that they did, I don't know how they were even legal at that time. But what he told us is that between New York and California, people would migrate differently. And Columbia, where I grew up, was a pretty liberal college town, I guess. But apparently there was a large homosexual population, And they found out that there was a lot of stuff that would happen in the bathrooms, the men's bathrooms. And so allegedly, as he told it, they put in one-way mirrors on the walls and were filming behaviors in the men's bathroom. And I'm like, how is that legal?
So,
That's a great
So your
question.
college film porno?
No. I had nothing.
That's what I'm getting here.
This was like 10 or 15 years before I went to
Okay,
college.
different
so-
school, different time period. Got it.
But anyway, it's no, psychology is really interesting. I mean, from training your rats to push a button, the Pavlovian responses, all that kind of stuff. It's a pretty fascinating field.
It is.
Did you have a favorite class or project that is still something that you remember fondly?
Well, in college, they had us do like this social experiment where you had to essentially like be homeless for a night. And so you found your worst clothes and, like a ratty blanket and, you stayed outdoors for the entire night just to see like, how do people treat you? What do they do? What do they say?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so
It's interesting.
what was your experience?
I mean, most times like you'd get ignored, or like dirty looks or
Sure.
that type of thing. You tried to pick a night where it wasn't going to be too cold because you
Sure.
didn't want to, kill yourself over the experiment or whatever. But I mean, lots of people had different experiences. Some people got hurt.
Oh, no.
At the time, lacrosse wasn't all that big and there, wasn't a lot of crime or that type of thing. So you weren't really truly concerned for your safety, but it was more like how will people treat you.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Huh. That's
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah.
Did you ever have any experiments like that, Vince?
I took a class on terrorism, and they had us plan terrorist attacks.
Oh my God.
You had to plan one?
Yeah, so my prof split our
freaky.
class into
Christian
half of
phase,
us were
what?
terrorists and half of us were counter-terrorists, and we were given a set budget. Like you're starting Y miles away from.
Budget.
Well,
So they
much?
taught people to be terrorists.
so the interesting thing was we got in trouble with that class.
I guess.
There were some people, because the class project was half the class is going to plan an attack on campus, the other half is going to prevent it. Some people got really worried about it and told the dean. The prof got upset. He's like, well, you know what? If you guys are so worried about the FBI coming to your doors, here's what I'm going to do. He started pulling out his laptop, started typing in how to build a bomb, where to buy guns,
my
all the
gosh.
things that you would need. So we had to change the topic to planning an attack on Chicago, where I went to school.
Okay.
But it was a really cool class because we learned a lot about the psychology of what makes up terrorism, how there's two sides to every conflict, how one person's terrorist is another person's freedom fighter or vice versa. How
Yeah.
Star Wars is literally about terrorism.
Yeah. Yeah.
It is.
Yeah, you guys taught me that.
So
What
how
about
did
you?
what did I?
I know, a fun class or project. We all shared
Well,
something.
I had the human sexuality. I can't say what happened in the labs.
Okay, because we had to be there for that.
No, the thing I remember most about this is they brought in, and again, this is, let's see, this would have been 1990, so like 30 years ago at least. And they
Before my
brought in
time.
people of different sexual orientations. And that was pretty different for somebody from a Midwestern spot. And it was, but there was one person that was like a little bit out there, sorry to be judgmental, but we're like, well, they said, what's your orientation? And she said something about, I forget the way that she put it, but she believed in Thor, Loki, and 6 other Norse gods. And we're like, okay, you're weird. That was the first time I'd ever heard anybody that actually went for, you got Catholics, you got Buddhists, you got
yeah.
all the spectrum. But the first time I heard somebody that say, yeah, I'm out there worshiping some Greek gods. I'm like, all right,
Okay. You do
good
you.
for you.
As long as they're happy.
Yeah.
So how did this interest in psychology then kind of dovetail into what you're doing today?
As I mentioned, the idea of going to school for like 8 years weighed on me a little. My mom owned a beauty salon when I was young, and I was always intrigued by, business, and I loved hanging out at the beauty salon and getting coffee for the old ladies and, just like the service side of owning a business. And so I started kind of poking around like, okay, if I'm not going to do psychology, what should I do? And I stumbled upon this thing called human resources and never heard of it before. And back then it was probably actually still called personnel.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, wait, this kind of is this mixture of psychology and business that I can, combo together. And so I studied human resources, and my first job out of college was a staffing agency. And I got to like really experience a lot of different types of companies and different types of jobs, which then got me even more interested in, wanting to sort of find what more I can do, to help people. And I often say, you can divide your life into thirds, right? 1/3 of your life, you work. 1/3 of your life, you sleep. And then the last third of your life, you run around trying to live this life like a chicken with your head cut off, But if you don't love what you do for work, it impacts the rest.
Right.
And so, like without getting too like philosophical about it, I've just always really enjoyed helping people with their careers and career development and helping people find their passion in life that they can, fulfill their personal and professional, mission and passion with what they do and why they do it.
We'll be right back.
I think
so
it was
needed.
Zig Ziglar who had said, if you help enough other people get to find what they want, you'll find. That's how you find what you enjoy. I messed that up totally, but if you help other people find what they want, you'll find what you want. Something like that. And I thought that was really profound. I like that. I think that's the case if your head is on right. If you pursue your career going after the almighty dollar, you'll have fun for an extended period of time, perhaps, but the long haul, not so much so. Because you got to enjoy what you do, and you got to enjoy working with people and helping them solve their problems. At least that's the way I see it.
For sure.
What goes around comes around. As the kids would say it.
Zig Ziglar didn't say that.
Well, this is what the kids would say.
So how has HR changed? And I have to believe that it severely has in the the last 20 years or even the last 10 years. What's that look like for you?
I would say probably one of the biggest areas would be recruiting. I sort of jokingly say, one of my first jobs out of college was a recruiter. Well, that job title wasn't even actually a thing yet. So I was, one of the first recruiters for a large international filtration company. Well, back then, you could post a job on monster.com and you would get 100 resumes for your one job.
Yeah.
And you basically got to pick the best of the best. And it didn't take a lot. I could hold 35 open requisitions at any one time. And I had a constant influx of candidates that, you could plug and play into the right roles. Well, today, you can hope to get 100 applicants, but unfortunately, 99 of them don't even meet the requirements of the job. The amount of time that it takes to fill a job is exponentially higher than what it used to be.
Yeah.
A key performance indicator has oftentimes been time to fill for recruiters. So the shorter the time period that you can fill the job opening, the better recruiter you are. We almost can't even use it anymore because it's not an indicator of a really good recruiter.
Yeah.
It's the workforce, and the workforce challenges have changed so significantly. It's not the recruiter's fault, so to speak, that it takes longer now.
Yeah. So if we dig deeper into that, and that's something I have thought about, what is it that's changed? Is it, do we have less educated people? Is our business environment have more openings? What is it that's causing the challenge on the recruiting side?
It's probably accumulation of things. I mean, the stats in South Dakota here are for every 10 jobs, there's only 6 people.
Wow.
And, we have not kept up with the amount of automation that we actually demand for ourselves. And so that's certainly a piece of what we need to embrace more quickly in order to kind of overcome this gap. But it's the population growth. As the baby boomers go out, those types of jobs are also changing.
Sure.
And the knowledge that people carried in their heads, they've not found ways to make that scalable and repeatable.
Yeah.
And then, you've also got anomalies like COVID, for example, where people just decided to stop working.
Yeah.
We have not rebound from that, and who knows if we actually will.
Does the work ethic of the generations have anything to do with some of the challenges? Because, as an example, I'm going to throw a few people under the bus here, probably. But when I was in healthcare, one of the physician recruiters and I were talking, and they told me that. He said, our jobs are about to get a lot harder. I said, why is that? He goes, well, it's tough enough to find a physician, like a cardiologist that wants to come to a cold state like South Dakota in the wintertime, right? And I said, agreed. He goes, well, it's going to get a lot harder because the younger generation puts more emphasis on a work-life balance than the baby boomers did. So he said, now that one role of a cardiologist that was a baby boomer, now we've got to find 2 people for that one.
Yeah. Yeah. Sometimes I'll do a talk or a training session on, some of the generational impact.
Yeah.
And I'm joking, but I'm not joking when I say employees are like Burger King. They want it their way. I mean, truly, so the baby boomers would work 60 plus hours a week and didn't think twice about it. And I mean, even my daughter, who's 21, is saying, I have zero interest in working 40 plus hours a week. I'm just not going to do it. And so in working with organizations and doing their manpower planning and their staff planning, we're having to look out at that trajectory and say, if you have 10 people today that are working 60-hour weeks, you're going to need to plan for, at least 15, probably 5 years from now, because you won't have enough people to cover the amount of man hours that you need in order to get that work done, unless you find methods to start to automate.
Is it like that in other countries? Are they seeing the same challenges in the U.S. where the generations are saying, hey, I'm not going to do what my dad or mom or grandparents did?
No other country works like we work.
Really?
Yeah. I've had American employees go to Germany, for example, as an expat. And, we tested it out and we said, hey, you don't have to stay forever, but we need you to, sign up for at least a year. And as long as you sign up for a year, we'll do constant check-ins to see how things are going, but we won't make you stay if you hate it. Yeah. And even, before that year mark, they'll say, you can tell me I have to come back, but I'm not. Because they put so much more emphasis on like life and quality of life over work.
Huh. And that's a whole other conversation that would take like 3 podcasts to probably
I was going to say the same thing.
It's pretty fascinating.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's one of the interesting things about talking about nostalgia is how the world has shifted and changed since, all of us were kids to where it is today.
Well, we're in an unprecedented time where you can have members of 5 distinct generations in the same workforce.
Absolutely.
Which is wild.
And then you got automation, and you can't say automation or the future in the workforce without talking about AI and what's that impact looks like. We get surveys
every day,
I think once a quarter, about what's the impact AI is having on your job, your employees, whatever like that. And I mean, we're just like scratching the surface on what that could look like. I mean, I think it can help in some ways, but I fear it's going to hurt in other ways too, because we're, even with phones and things like that, where I feel like we're losing kind of that human touch that we need, the customer service. It's kind of sad times in a way to see that go away.
Yeah, it's interesting. I actually sat in on a presentation just a little over a week ago from a futurist.
Yeah.
It was freaky.
Yeah.
But he had said, we can stick our head in the sand and try to, hope that some of this doesn't, change things too significantly. But if we do that, like, we're going to leave ourselves in a precarious situation, and so what can we do, to kind of stay in front of it and embrace it in healthy and productive ways, because like it can be used for a lot of evil, and he gave us different examples of that, and how it's used in the media. And we think we're looking at, a picture of what's actually going on with Hamas, for example, but it's AI, and how that, can be used to like turn people against each other. And that's just really crazy. We never would have dreamt of that as kids. Like, throw me back in the cornfield and let me find my way through. Fine, I'll go, swim in the cow pond again.
So speaking of that, was there anything that how did you think the future was going to look when you were growing up? And how's it compare now? Like, is there something specific? Did you nail something as a prediction, or something you're disappointed in that didn't turn out that way? Like, I thought we were going to have flying cars by now, like a regular thing.
Yeah, Back to the Future was kind of part of my time. So, yeah, you did kind of think we'd have some flying cars by now. Yeah. The Jetsons made us think like we'd probably have robot maids running around, and like, can you have them? I've got a little Yuffie who sweeps my floor every day, but, not the full-fledged maid. So there's probably some of that, I just lived in such a small town and I was so sheltered. Like, I just didn't think big when I was a kid. I had to learn much later how to think big.
Yeah, we were looking with this being 2024 when the show comes out, we were looking at movies, when they were made and what year they were supposed to be in the shows. And it's interesting, some of the ones that have... Like the Jetsons was made in 1962. I forget what year they projected they were in.
62, because George Jetson was born in 2022. So happy 1-year-old birthday to George Jetson, whoever he was born.
Is that true?
I didn't know that.
Yep.
But these other movies, like Blade Runner, was actually, I think the original one came out in the 80s, and that was supposed to happen in the year 2019. And then there's another movie with Arnold Schwarzenegger called Running Man, which is based on a story by Stephen King. And that was supposed to be like around 2017, 2019, where all this futuristic stuff with like RoboCop and stuff like that. And yeah, I feel like we're close. Like all these things we're talking about, robot maids and flying cars, we're really, really close to that, but we're not quite there. There is actually some flying car drone. It's just not been approved like that. But I feel like with AI and automation, I feel like where we're at today versus where we could be in another 5 or 10 years is going to be exponential potentially. But yeah, we put a man on the moon, allegedly, in the 60s. and you would have thought we'd be kind of like colonizing Mars, but we're not. And but I feel like once that does kind of kick in, it's gonna just like take off.
As one of our favorite clients likes to say, the future is limitless.
That's right. Shout out to Marsh McLennan. I always say Marsh McLennan.
You're not supposed to say their name.
What's okay is a little shout out. Sponsorship opportunities, perhaps.
They're good for those.
Is there any other nostalgic stories or memories you care to share, Christina, as we bring this bad boy to a close?
Well, because the theme of our show is always about connecting that thread from the past to the present. So if there's like a quote or a story or a mentor, something that, you still kind of hold true today that you either, teach to your own kids or do in your own business practice, like we'd love to share that with our viewers.
Yeah, actually, I was meeting with a media provider earlier today, and this was kind of a topic of conversation, but in one of my first jobs, I had an excellent mentor. Her name was Darcy. And I actually recently saw this post the other day that said, you will have mentors along the way that made a really big impact in your life, but they probably don't even know it. Maybe you should tell them. And I was like, I need to tell her. But one of the best pieces of advice she ever gave me was go go try everything. And she was specifically kind of talking about HR.
Yeah.
Go, do the recruiting, do the generalist work, look at benefits, do compensation, try it all so that you find what you love and have a passion for and really want to do. Best case or worst case scenario, like you just got a ton of experience and your resume looks awesome.
Yeah.
And then best case scenario, you find what fills your bucket and, you find a fulfilling role for yourself.
Yeah.
So through the years, I've mentored young HR people coming up, fresh out of college and through the ranks. And I always try to give them that advice too. Go try everything and learn as much as you possibly can. And it'll help you really uncover what you truly have a passion for.
Yeah. Yeah.
Shout out to Darcy, right?
Darcy.
Darcy.
Yeah.
Good old Darcy. Where's she at now?
Yeah. I think she's still in Minneapolis. Yeah.
That's good advice. Really good advice.
Try everything, folks.
Right.
It's a new year. Might as well do it.
Yep. All right, friends, as we bring our show to a close, to find more about Christina and her business, we'll have it in our show notes. Make sure you check out our YouTube channel so you can see some of the visual aids that we have, especially all these name drops that these folks did here that I have no idea what they're talking about.
Visual aids.
Until next time, stay engaged, and we'll see you on Nostalgia Street. Make sure to subscribe to our podcast on your favorite podcast platform. If you're on iTunes, please take a moment and leave us a rating and review.
Head on over to our YouTube channel and hit that subscribe button. You'll get access to engaging visuals that complement our podcast content.
Thanks again for tuning in, and we look forward to having you with us on our next episode. So until next time, listeners, stay curious, stay engaged,
Never stop walking down Nostalgia Street.